Hi, Scott Orlin with Cinema Magazine. All you fans of The Tourist, you thought, oh, season one, that was it. Wrong. Season two is coming upon us, and I'm here with the star, and I think one of the producers as well, Jamie Dornan. Thank you so much for being here. With that first series, I mean, as an actor, you get to travel all around the world, and I mean, how cool. You got to explore the outback of Australia. So was there a sense of relief or disappointment in a sense of, well, now I have to go shoot in Ireland?
No, I think relief, to be honest. Like as you say, like I'm very lucky. I do get to travel around, gone some pretty incredible places as a part of my job. But Australia was incredible, but it was a big undertaking, and to bring the family out there. We put our kids into school out in Adelaide. It's quite disruptive, and we're not looking to do that every year, I guess. I think it's okay to have a big adventure like that in the family every 3 years, maybe. But I guess we're not trying to not be so disruptive every year. And because there was a big demand for the second series, because, it did very well in UK and Ireland and in Europe, it felt like once it felt like we were going to do a second series, I was a bit like, oh, I don't think we can go back out there. And luckily, Jack and Harry and myself and a few other people involved creatively had an idea of it being in Ireland. My character was always Irish, and he was looking for answers. So it seemed like a logical thing to end up back in Ireland looking for those answers. So yeah, I was kind of relieved that I'd be closer to home, and I'd be surrounded by an Irish crew, which is like my favorite thing in the world.
One of the things that kind of drives the narrative is all about his amnesia, that he has no memories. And this season especially is a way to kind of try and nudge him and to try and remember stuff. And I thought, wow, how important are memories? If we lost them, how much of ourselves would we lose? And I was wondering, going through this experience, was it kind of reflective in a way of how precious your memories are? Maybe we don't, appreciate them as much as we should.
Yeah, I mean, it is, our history and what we remember of it is a huge part of who we are, and we are colored by our past, and that has made us who we are. So it is, they're definitely important. I sometimes panic that I don't remember a lot of stuff from certain periods of my life, or, particularly when I was very young. I've only sort of like photograph memories and little moments that I sort of remember about. I remember sort of overall sort of contentment, I guess, but I remember very little about sort of specifics. I'm always amazed when I'm with my sisters and they're like rhyming off this stuff, that these adventures we did as a family, and I just have no recollection of them. I am the youngest, so they're a few years older than me, so maybe they just have a better memory of those events. But they're pretty crucial. They're pretty important. I love being reminded of stuff through like photographs and stuff. And I realize, there weren't as many photographs taken, when you and I were young compared to like now. Like these kids aren't going to forget anything because it's all documented and they've posted about it. Every single meal they've had, every like event they've been to, every birthday. It's all very well documented. So I don't think they'll have any trouble. But I do like looking back. I'd be really scared if I forgot everything.
I'm the youngest as well, and I think what is wonderful about family and friends is the collective memory that they help you.
Sure.
Is that sometimes friends go, remember when we did this? There's like, I don't, and they
Yeah.
kind of bring the memory back. So I
Yeah.
wholeheartedly agree. Speaking of memories, you and I both sadly have lost our mothers at an earlier age, and I look at how special mothers can be in our lives. They're such nurturers, and then your mother in this show, and nurturer is not the word that I would use. Run across a woman that exuded that much power, that much fear.
Yeah, I mean, Owen is like she's a bit of a legend back home. Like everyone. I've wanted to work with Owen for a very long time, and she's a real force and one of the most remarkable looking women I've ever seen. She's just incredible. She just carries this sort of authority with her, but she's actually just very sweet and meek and very gentle and a lovely person. To see her be that crazy was really interesting to see that up close. Yeah, there's not a lot of the nurturing qualities there, as you said. But I think what's nice about it is that there's part of her that does want to have that, you know, and now that she feels she's got her son back, there is an element of her that does want to show that nurturing side. But, you know, she's been so corrupted by the environment she's in, and the sort of this feud that's been going on for so long, and what she surrounds herself with, that she's almost sort of incapable of it. But it's almost like her doing all this violence and anarchy that is around her life, but actually wanting to be a good mother at times and show care and compassion to Elliot. It's kind of exactly like the whole show is, like The Tourist is, of just this. It's like you think it's one thing and it's actually another, and we're trying to show you one thing but it's actually another. So it sort of fits in well to the madness of Jack and Harry Williams, and the way that they are constantly playing with tone and genre and the sort of comfort of the audience and the ride they're on.
I mean, growing up, not that you ever saw rival families like this, but did you ever see neighbors, or did you ever know of two families having like a generational rivalry?
No, I don't think I did. No, I kind of think it must be a bit of a thing. You know, I'm sure. I know, and I remember we had friends of ours who had a real issue with their neighbors for years. So I guess that would be about the closest I would know. It was you know, it was really petty stuff about dogs. You know, dogs barking, and where the dog was doing their thing in the garden. They shared like a fence, and their dog always got under their fence, and you know, did the business in their garden, but their dog never did the business on the other side. And so it's just this whole thing. But, you know, and I come from a small place where everyone kind of knows each other, you know, so I guess it became sort of more heightened as a result of that. But you know, we certainly weren't ever involved in one of my family, thank God. And if they were as unsavory as the characters that are in The Tourist, I don't think we would have fared too well.
Sometimes actors do things as an audience. We go, God, how did they have that willpower? How are they able to do something like that? And there's a moment in this where you're sitting in the pub with Ethan and he's drinking his pint and yours sits intact right in front of you. And I thought, God, look at the willpower. Look what Jamie's having to go through.
I think because it was like,
that's acting. That's acting.
That is acting. That really does. That comes from deep within, Scott. You know, that's deep in there. Yeah, I mean, look, if it was a real beer, I probably would have struggled more. But it's one of those fake, disgusting beers that even like it's like torture to even take a sip of that stuff. So that probably made my job a little bit easier that day.
Great.
Yeah.
Last question for you. I think it's in maybe the first or second episode. There's this really powerful view when you're standing on the cliffs of, I don't want to give too much away, and you're just kind of looking around. And I thought, okay, his character's going through definitely anxiety, but just as an actor, as Jamie, just looking out, that must have been something so incredibly beautiful and impressive. I don't know, has there been another moment like that for you where you've been somewhere around the world, or maybe it was in this moment, where you just kind of stopped for a second and took in the majesty of where you were?
I have to say, I did probably do that day. We were, you know, for the most part, we were in the East Coast. We were either in sort of inner city Dublin, or we were just south of Dublin and Wicklow, and in the Wicklow sort of mountains. But for like a couple of days, we went over to the west of Ireland, like drove over. It takes about sort of 4 hours to drive across the sort of width of the country, and went down to, that was Achill Island, that stuff, that very dramatic cliff edge stuff in County Mayo. And I had been to Mayo. I mean, I'd shot a movie in Mayo, but I'd never been to Achill. I'd been to Achill when I was 9 or something. I couldn't remember it. Like, back to our point of like not remembering much. I don't remember being there. And we went, and there was a heat wave going on. It was so beautiful. The sun was hitting every single place you could see. And I mean, it is, you know, Tourism Ireland would tell you, I mean, it really is one of the most beautiful parts of a very beautiful island, Achill. And so I really did have a moment there where I was staring at going, I feel super lucky to be here and be able to like work in this is my office for the day, this insanely stunning vista. So yeah, I very much enjoyed that. Just lying around, listening to the sound of the. It's quite a violent sea around there. Got big crashing waves happening, and it was really, really, really beautiful. I then when we finished a little bit early that day, and I had to then get back over to Dublin. So, and then I was being picked up next morning early because it was like a second unit that went to Achill. And I was like, I know we've got a long drive, but I need to swim while I'm here. So we went to this bay. I'll urge you to Google it after this, called Keem Bay in Achill, and it is about the most beautiful. It's like crystal clear, like Caribbean-esque waters. So I made the driver go there, and I had a quick swim with Nathan, who was my stunt double. We went and had a swim in this bay before heading back to the city across Ireland. So it was a very, very, very beautiful couple of days spent there.
A new memory.
Yeah.
I'll help you remember.
Okay, good.
As always, Jamie Dornan, season 2 of The Tourist. And this is Scott. Till next time.